So, version 5.8 is bringing us a brand new 5-star character named Inefa, and while she might not have been on anyone's radar, she's turning out to be one of the most unique support characters we've seen in a long time. In this video, we're going to break down her entire kit. Not just read through the leaks, but actually analyze what it means, how she might fit into the current meta, and why she's probably going to shake things up in a very unexpected way. Save up to 25% on the current banners at lootbar.gg. All you need is your UID and server. The link is in the description. Now, if you haven't heard much about Inefa yet, that's totally fair. She kind of came out of nowhere. No teaser trailers, no years of data mined anticipation, just a sudden appearance in the 5.8 beta with a full skill set and some pretty wild mechanics. And what's especially interesting is that she's not just another Electro unit. She introduces a brand new elemental reaction called Lunar Charged. And here's the kicker, it's exclusive to her. As in, this reaction cannot exist in the game unless Inefa is on the field or in your party. Kind of like how Nilou's bountiful cores only work when she's there. So let's talk about how this all works, starting with her basic gameplay loop. Inefa is a 5-star Electro polearm user. Her general role seems to fall somewhere between a support and a sub-DPS, but not in the typical sense. She's not really built for healing, and she doesn't do raw personal damage, like a carry either. Instead, her kit revolves around empowering a specific reaction, Lunar Charged, and providing consistent Electro application and team buffs. That makes her feel more like a reaction enabler than anything else. Her normal attacks are fairly standard polearm strikes, so there's not much to analyze there. What really defines her playstyle is her elemental skill and elemental burst. When you use her skill, Inefa deals electro damage in an area around her and summons a construct, either called Birgitta or Velkitar depending on the translation, that hovers around and periodically strikes enemies with electro. At the same time, she creates a shield that scales off her attack and has 250% increased absorption against electro damage, which is a pretty significant detail. Shields with elemental bonuses like that aren't too common, and it instantly makes her feel a bit more durable than characters like Diona or Layla in that department. This summon, Birgitta, is what keeps her relevant off-field. Every 2 seconds or so, it will attack a nearby enemy, applying electro damage consistently, which is exactly what you want if you're trying to maintain a reaction-heavy rotation. If you've used Fischl or Yaimiko before, that part should sound familiar. The twist here is that it's not just about uptime, it's also about unlocking the Lunar Charged reaction, which only exists when Inefa is in the team. And that brings us to the main mechanic everyone's talking about. So, Lunar Charged is essentially a modified version of Electro Charged. That's the reaction you get when Electro meets Hydro. Normally, Electro Charged hits with a little AoE zap that pulses a few times between enemies. But with Inefa on the field, you instead get Lunar Charged, and then that comes with some key changes. First, it loses the area of effect. There's no splash damage, so it becomes more single-target focused, but in exchange, it gains critical hit scaling. Yes, you heard that right. Lunar Charged damage can crit, which is a huge departure from how standard elemental reactions normally behave. Reactions like Overloaded or Superconduct don't crit. They scale off elemental mastery and character level, and that's it. But with Inefa, crit stats suddenly matter for reactions. That opens up a lot of new build paths and team compositions. Now, the reaction itself is only available while Inefa is present. If she's not in your party, the game just defaults back to normal Electro Charged. This kind of mechanic is rare. The only real comparison we have is Nilou, whose bountiful cores don't exist outside her teams. So Inefa is essentially locked into reaction-focused comps with Hydro units. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. If anything, it makes her a highly specialized support that can massively amplify your damage, but only if your team is built correctly. Her burst is also built around Birgitta. When you activate her elemental burst, she summons Brigitte again, dealing a burst of electro damage in an area and refreshing the summon if it's already active. What's important here is that her burst doesn't override the summon's uptime, but instead reinforces it, which means better uptime for electro application and more reaction windows. Let's talk passives, because this is where things get even more interesting. One of her passives gives additional lunar charge damage scaling based on her attack. Specifically, for every 100 points of attack, lunar charge deals an extra 0.7% base damage, up to a max bonus of 14%. That's a lot of extra potential damage baked directly into her kit. Another passive increases the elemental mastery of Ineffa and the current active character after using her burst, based on a percentage of her attack. So she's not just enabling reactions, she's actually boosting your other character's reaction output as well. Her third passive, and this one is worth highlighting, causes Brigitte to deal an additional hit of lunar charge damage whenever a thundercloud is active. That's a specific mechanic tied to her summon, and the bonus damage scales off her attack again. It all points back to one core idea. Ineffa scales with attack, buffs your team with attack and elemental mastery, and boosts a unique reaction that scales with both stats and critical hit damage. That's a very unusual but powerful design. Now we also have solid leak info on her signature weapon, a 5-star polearm called Fractured Halo. It comes with a high base attack of around 608 and a massive crit damage secondary stat sitting at roughly 66%. Its passive gives you a 24% attack boost for 20 seconds after using your elemental skill or burst. But what really pushes it over the edge is this: if you generate a shield during that effect, which Ineffa always does with her skill, then all nearby party members get a 40% bonus to lunar charge damage for 20 seconds. That's not just a personal buff. That's a team-wide boost to reaction damage, assuming you're running a lunar charged comp. It's a very synergistic weapon and clearly designed for her kit. So, with all of this in mind, what kind of teams should you be thinking about? Well, since she's all about Electro plus Hydro synergy, obvious pairings include characters like Yellen, Xingqiu, or even Neuvillette. Especially Neuvillette, he provides constant Hydro application and self-healing, while Ineffa supports from off-field and shields him during his charged shots. Characters like Farina or Kokomi could also slot in well, depending on how you're balancing healing and damage. There's even some potential to experiment with dual Electro setups using characters like Fischl or Raiden Shogun, especially if you want to extend uptime and energy generation, but that synergy is still a bit speculative and needs testing when she releases. One thing I would encourage players to consider is how build-defining this character could become. Just like how Nilou transformed Bloom teams, Ineffa has the potential to define a new meta category around single-target, crit-based reactions. If the numbers hold up in live release, she might become a must-pull for reaction-heavy Hydro comps, not because of raw damage, but because of how much value she brings passively through shields, buffs, and exclusive mechanics. Let me know what you think about her kit. Are you planning to pull? Do you think she'll live up to the hype? Or will the lack of AoE limit her real value? Drop a comment below. I'm really curious how people are viewing her role compared to other supports, like Fischl or Yae. And if you found this breakdown helpful, consider liking and subscribing for more update analysis as we get closer to 6.0. Thanks for watching. Save up to 25% on the current banners at lootbar.gg. All you need is your UID and server. The link is in the description.